We all know about fire safety, the importance of smoke alarms, and even how brave firefighters are. We definitely don't want fires starting in our homes or schools. But there's one place where fire is welcome: in a prairie. Iowa's beautiful prairies need fire. It's almost as important to them as sunlight. Why? Well, some trees and plants growing in a prairie are not supposed to be there. They're called invasive species. They can harm the prairie ecosystem by choking out native prairie plants. It just so happens that these invasive species can't survive fire, but the deep roots of a prairie plant can. So even though the surface prairie plant burns, its deep roots keep it coming back up to grow in the sunlight once again. This is my brother David. He's a naturalist and he knows lots about prairies and also about birding prairies. So why do we burn a prairie?
Burning a prairie helps keep the plants we want and destroy the plants that we don't want.
So we burn the prairie, but don't the prairie plants that we love also get burned?
They do, but it's only on the surface. They have long, strong root structures that it lets them come back. It also destroys the bad plants that we don't want because they don't have those big roots.
What time of year do we burn?
Spring.
Why?
Because the bad plants come up first and the good native plants come up second.
Okay,
so we want to destroy them first.
So fire can be dangerous, but you have lots of ways to keep yourself safe and to control the fire. So tell me about the tools that you have.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different tools here today, and each one of these tools does something different because you need to take away one thing to get rid of fire. So you want to either take away the heat, the oxygen, or the fuel.
Okay, so what are some of the tools that take those things away?
Well, we can start with the flapper here on the end.
Ooh, can I guess?
Go ahead and guess.
I bet this thing takes away the oxygen.
Exactly. It suffocates that fire. You put it over the fire and it suffocates it.
Okay, let's take a look at this one. What is this tool used for?
That's called a fire rake.
Okay.
That's used to move the fuel away from the fire, creating a line of dirt which doesn't burn.
So you move all the plants and all the things that are flammable and can burn away.
Exactly.
Because dirt doesn't burn, so it would stop.
Exactly.
Okay. What about this tool?
That does about the same thing. It helps, It allows you to dig a trench or a line so that fire can't jump over that line.
Okay, so what are these?
This is a leaf blower and we got a couple chainsaws here.
What do you use a leaf blower for?
A leaf blower works really good for putting out a fire, just like blowing out a candle. It has to be smaller fires. You won't put out a big fire with it. And then the chainsaws are typically for cleanup.
Excellent. So we have lots of tools that we use to stop a fire. Tell me about all of the steps involved in preparing for the fire.
The first thing we ever do to prepare for fire is we use the big tractor behind us and we install a burn brake. And we'll typically do that way before we ever think about burning. That way we're all ready to go when we have the correct weather to burn, because you want the right wind, because you don't want to send the smoke or the fire in the wrong direction.
So a burn brake is basically a space in the land where there's no fuel, so the fire will stop.
Correct. So a burn brake could be something like a gravel road, because we'll have a hard time jumping that gravel road, or we'll have to use a tractor to make one. And that involves that disc that's on the back of the tractor. We'll turn up the soil and hide the fuel and put the dirt on top.
Okay. So at that point, are we ready to burn?
Not quite.
Okay, what's next?
You need to have the right weather.
Okay.
So you got to check the weather forecast. If the wind is wrong, or if the wind is right and it might be too dry, it might be too dangerous to burn. It might be raining and you're not going to burn in the rain.
Okay.
And you need to also have some water sitting around in case you do need to fight a little bit of fire. And you also want to have 911 on standby in case things do go bad.
So the fire department is usually notified when you're doing a burn and ready to help out if you need.
Exactly.
Okay, now are we ready to burn?
You betcha.
Okay, how do we start the fire?
So all the fires start with a little lighter, and that lights my drip torch. Now that that's going, now it's dripping fire, and I can walk along and light a fire. And that creates a nice even line so it doesn't burn anything you don't want to burn.
So back in the day when the state was covered with prairie, fire would kind of start naturally and go out naturally, right?
Exactly.
So why do we have to do it this way now?
We have too many things we don't want to burn.
Okay, that makes sense. And of course, it's so important to keep doing this because
It helps maintain a healthy prairie.
Funding for Find Iowa has been provided by the following supporters.